Have you ever heard of ancient airplanes thousands of years before the Wright brothers? What if I told you that ancient Indian texts describe flying machines called Vimanas with incredible detail? We're not talking about myths of flying carpets, but technical manuals for aircraft. Welcome to the Bizarre Bureau, where today we're investigating the Vimanas, ancient India's mysterious flying machines. The word Vimana literally translates to measuring out or traversing. But in ancient texts, it describes palaces or temples and, most intriguingly, flying chariots of the gods. The most famous of these texts are the great epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In the Ramayana, the villain Ravana kidnapped Sita in his flying machine, the Pushpaka Vimana. This wasn't just a simple chariot. It was described as a massive multi-tiered aerial palace that could travel at the speed of thought and carry numerous passengers. It was said to be originally built by the divine architect Vishwakarma for Brahma, the creator god. Think of it as an ancient Air Force One, but way more luxurious. The Mahabharata also features numerous accounts of Vimanas. One passage describes the hero Arjuna being taken to the heavens in a flying machine that could travel through water and clouds. Another tells of a devastating weapon, the Brahmastra, launched from a Vimana, which sounds eerily similar to modern-day superweapons. These epic poems are filled with vivid descriptions of aerial battles, with Vimanas firing fiery missiles and maneuvering with incredible agility. Were these just poetic fantasies, or were they accounts of real technology passed down through generations and mythologized over time? The descriptions aren't just limited to these epic stories. A controversial 20th century text, the Vimana Shastra, claims to be a transcription of an ancient work by the sage Bharadwaja. This text is essentially a technical manual. It details the construction of Vimanas, the training of pilots, the types of metals and materials to be used, and even what pilots should eat. It describes different types of Vimanas, like the Shakuna Vimana, designed to look like a bird, and the Tripura Vimana, a triple-deck craft that can travel on land, water, and in the air. The Vimana Shastra gets incredibly specific. It talks about 32 secrets of a Vimana pilot, including the ability to make the craft invisible, see inside enemy planes, and even paralyze enemy crews. It mentions different types of power sources, including something involving mercury vortex engines. The idea is that by heating mercury, you could create a swirling vortex of energy that will provide lift and propulsion. It's a concept that sounds straight out of science fiction, but it's laid out in this text with supposed ancient authority. Now, we have to be skeptical. The Vimana Shastra's origins are murky. It was allegedly channeled through a psychic medium in the early 1900s, and its language and concepts seem more modern than ancient. A study by the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore concluded that the designs described were unfeasible and didn't conform to the principles of aeronautics. The proposed mercury vortex engine is not a scientifically viable propulsion method. So, is the Vimana Shastra a modern hoax, an attempt to weave scientific ideas into ancient lore? It's certainly a possibility. However, the dismissal of the Vimana Shastra doesn't explain away the thousands of references to Vimanas in much older, more established texts. These epics, which form the bedrock of Indian culture, predate the Vimana Shastra by millennia. Could they contain a kernel of truth? This is where the ancient astronaut theory comes in. Proponents of this theory, like Eric von Däniken, suggest that these gods were actually extraterrestrial visitors. The Vimanas weren't built by humans, but were the spacecraft of these advanced beings. The divine weapons were their advanced technology, and the epic battles were accounts of their conflicts, witnessed and recorded by our ancestors in the only way they knew how, through the language of gods and magic. Imagine ancient people seeing a modern fighter jet. How would they describe it? A fiery chariot? A metal bird that roared like thunder? It makes sense that they would use mythological terms to explain technology far beyond their comprehension. In this view, the texts aren't just stories. They're historical records of contact with a technologically superior civilization. This would explain why the knowledge to build and operate these machines was seemingly lost. The gods left and humanity was left with only the stories and fragmented memories of their incredible flying machines. Let's look at some of the evidence. Across India, temple carvings and ancient art depict figures in flying vehicles and scenes that look suspiciously like aerial combat. For example, in the Hampi Temple complex, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, there are carvings that some interpret as depicting flying machines. In Ellora Caves, intricate rock-cut temples show gods flying in what could be interpreted as Vimanas. Are these simply artistic representations of myths, or are they eyewitness depictions of real events? The line is blurry. Even some of the material science mentioned is fascinating. The Vimana Shastra talks about creating special alloys, or lohas, that were light, strong, and heat-resistant. One was called samaka, another sandalika. While we can't replicate them today based on the descriptions, it's intriguing that these texts bother to mention metallurgy at all. Why include such specific technical-sounding details in a work of pure fiction? So, where does that leave us? We have two main camps. The first is the mainstream academic view. Vimanas are purely mythological, a product of human imagination and the desire to fly, a theme common to many cultures. The Vimana Shastra is a 20th century creation, and the descriptions in the epics are poetic and allegorical, not literal. The second camp, which includes ancient astronaut theorists and other alternative researchers, believes that the texts are evidence of advanced ancient technology, whether of human or extraterrestrial origin. They argue that dismissing these accounts outright is a form of cultural bias, a refusal to believe that ancient civilizations could have been more advanced than we currently give them credit for. They point to the sheer volume and consistency of these accounts across multiple sources as proof that something real was being described. What do you think? Were the Vimanas just the stuff of legend, born from the dreams of our ancestors? Or were they real tangible machines that soared through the skies of ancient India? Could the stories of gods descending from the heavens be a memory of a time when we were not alone in the universe? The mystery of the Vimanas is a perfect example of where history, mythology, and science collide. It forces us to question our assumptions about the past and to keep an open mind about what might have been possible. The truth, as always, might be stranger than any fiction we could imagine. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the enigmatic world of the Vimanas here at the Bizarre Bureau. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient mysteries, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Let me know your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.